Welcome to A Coleman Conversation. Todd Hollander, former Lendistry Leadership Chief Lending and Revenue Officer, but he's still wearing the Lendistry shirt. Todd, I've been looking forward to this. I've got to know you pretty well. You're in my backyard here in Southern California. And I enjoy talking about people's journey in the SBA world. You have an amazing journey. So I don't know where we want to start. Let's start with Lendistry. Tell me who Lendistry is, and the numbers are amazing. And what is unique about that SBA 7A lender?
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, Bob. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you for coming on. Yeah, it's
awesome.
Been
a lot of years, so it's nice to do this. Lendistry is the largest minority-led CDFI SBLC in the nation. You've seen the numbers surge. We're prolific as far as number of 7As and smaller 7As processed. We're a technology-driven company, and really a mission-based company where our marketing and a lot of the things that we do are focused on bringing up communities that might not have as much access to capital as other communities. Although we'll lend to everybody who needs capital, and we're very, very small business focused. Also do home loans and things like that. We also do new market tax credits, so we're a very diversified company as well. And the growth has been absolutely tremendous since PPP, and we got our preferred lender status and all of those things.
Why do we need a Lendistry? And I guess the question is, Lendistry's been very successful in this niche, and there's a couple of reasons, but let's go for the positive. What about this niche has made Lendistry successful?
Well, our ability to process a large amount of volume was, developed during the PPP times. We were one of the top 10 PPP lenders amongst banks and fintechs, and
I did not know that. I did not know that.
Oh yeah, it was an absolute home run for Lendistry, and it also enabled us to become a large servicer, which is also a business for us. We've taken 2 or 3 large portfolios from the Fed to service them from failed PPP lenders, and that's really become a core competency of ours, in addition to providing capital and other things. We also have the Center by Lendistry that provides technical support and programmatic support for things. And we're also a large, which helped during the crisis, and we still do this, we're a large distributor of grants. So what was surprising to me, because as you know, I was a banker for 35 years before coming to work for Lendistry, is the problems and opportunities facing a fintech and facing a lender are 2 completely different things. At Union Bank, before we sold to US Bank, we went from the mid hundreds in SBA lending to the top 10 to a top 10 SBA lender, but we did it by dollars, not units, because I had a massive amount of capital, and the best thing I could do was lend it. And after I got the bank convinced that SBA lending was a safe way to do it and a good way to deploy capital, we did it, but we did it very, very conservatively. You get to Lendistry, where we can process a large amount of units, where we didn't have great technology at the bank. We had great technology at Union Bank, but the massive access to capital and to be able to lend is different. So we concentrated on the units, where that was our competitive advantage versus the dollars. So we went from mid hundreds again in units to top 10 in dollars at Lendistry. So I've gotten to see it from 2 different angles.
I'm already enjoying the conversation. I hear your passion, and I hear your passion for what you do and the generational wealth changes it makes for your clients. So good for you. Before I move on to that, what are you doing now with Lendistry?
Well, I've recently transitioned from my active role as Chief Lending Officer and Revenue Officer to a board advisor role. So I still work with Everett, our founder and chairman, or our founder and CEO. And so I'm still pretty involved with that. I touch it at least once a day, and was on the phone this morning for a couple hours doing some deals and looking at things. But I'm transitioning out of my day-to-day role into more of an advisor role. And honestly, Bob, I'm just trying to figure it all out. I'm very interested in going on bank and other private company boards, and also some fractional things. It's been a good career, and I'm still involved. But at this point in my life, I really want to do things that I'm very passionate about in small business, and driving economic success of business owners has always been my top priority, and it remains.
Well, yeah, I hear that loud and clear. When did you start with Union Bank?
I started with Union Bank in 2010.
So well, and before that, you've seen some cycles.
Oh yeah, I started with Wells Fargo in
Yeah,
early
thank you.
1990,
That's
and
what I was getting at.
so yeah, no, and the cool thing about my career is I've gotten to be with very large banks like Wells Fargo, which wasn't nearly as big as it is now when I worked for it, to Union Bank, and then also spent time at two independent banks where I was a rego officer, and I've gotten to see how businesses get financed, and how entrepreneurs create wealth, distribute wealth, transition ownership from large banks, small banks, and now an independent non-bank provider of capital. So I think the main thing that remains that for me is the entrepreneurial spirit. And from a lender standpoint and a provider of capital standpoint, never, ever, ever do anything you can't broadcast on the 5 o'clock news, because it'll always come back and bite you. And besides that, you can sleep better at night. So shortcuts don't work. They always come back to bite you in the end. So the long-term players and the people who I've seen, be in the industry for decades have always been the honest ones. So I like to see that.
There's a reason why they're in the industry for decades. You cannot last in this industry without doing the right thing. Absolutely. What have you learned through the cycles and through formal corporate down to an entrepreneurial? Lendistry's entrepreneurial lender. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they saw an opportunity. They created their capital structure and their competitive advantage around that opportunity. And the different banks do the same things. So I think you know very early on in my career, I was fortunate enough to be formally credit trained, and it comes down to three things, right? Primary, secondary, and tertiary. So make sure that the people you're lending the money to can pay you back, because it's not good for them and it's not good for you if they can't. So make sure you lend people enough money. You don't lend them too much money, and you don't lend them too little money, but you always make sure that you're not putting it on the back of somebody else to have
So
them pay
you're
you back.
saying I learned the 5 C's. You're saying character is the first C.
Character is definitely the first C, but the trust but verify. Make sure people. Sometimes people with good character have unrealistic expectations about what they can do. So
I'm gonna let you talk, but I think that's such a powerful line. Say that again, because what you said about that unrealistic expectations, it's not that they're a fraudster. It's not that that they don't know what they do on how to run their business, but they don't have the worldview on the best way to financially go about. Expand on that.
yeah, well, that's why there's primary, secondary, and tertiary, because the primary is, if it goes the way I want it to go, this is how I'm going to pay you back. Secondary is, if things go a little sour, what's my backstop? How can I pay you back with my backstop and live to see the other side? And then tertiary is, what if both go away? Where am I going to tap? So you make sure that people say, okay, what am I going to do if? What am I going to do if the founder and owner and driver, something happens and they can't run the business anymore? Who's going to run it? That's just a portion of that. And then the other thing is, make sure that the business is there and that there's a realistic expectation for the business to be able to generate the cash to pay you back, so that people can do well. So some of the best conversations I've had is, not now, because I have a theory that you never turn down anyone for a loan. You tell them what they need to do to be approved. So people come back to you years later, say, hey, I did it. And you might not even remember them, but they remember the advice you gave them and that you were honest with them. And then they remember what, if you give them good advice and you tell them what they need to do, they go do it. And it's one of the most satisfying things in the world.
Lendistry's made a commitment to minority, to underserved markets. Tell me a little bit about that community. I live in Southern California. I try to patronize the mom and pop Mexican restaurants. I walk into one of those and the vibe is so much different than when I go to a chain Applebee's.
Yeah, well, it matters a lot more to them, right? I mean, that's how they make their money. And if you know, one of the greatest things in the world about our country is we give people opportunity. And most of the times when somebody elevates their way out of poverty, it's through a small business and through
Absolutely.
self-employment. One of my favorite statistics in the world is 11% of the people in the country are self-employed. 25% of the wealth in the country is controlled by that 11. The wealth creation of small business ownership is amazingly disproportional. It's hard. And you know, the failure rates are more than the success rates, but the success rates are there and people have a chance. So it matters more to them. And we as you know, bankers and providers of financial help need to remember that, because it's a huge responsibility for us to try to help people get to the other side. And it's not only that business owner that you're financing, it's their kids, their ability to go put them through college, their ability to buy a house, their ability to create wealth.
Second
and
generation.
and it's the employees of those businesses, because every good business owner, one of my favorite things in the world to do is go out to the business, talk to them. How'd you get started? What do you do? And see how they treat their employees when you walk the facility, and that tells you everything about the owner. And they really care about their teams.
I don't talk about this a lot, Todd. I think you and I may have, but my wife is a second generation immigrant. Her dad was an immigrant. My daughter-in-law, second generation, she's a lawyer. So the opportunities um, are available, and it is so satisfying to see them succeed with those opportunities.
Yeah, there's nothing better. I mean, I went to just 2 months ago. I went to the opening of a new facility for a customer who's been with me through three banks, and we also loan at Lendistry. And he actually made more money from the sale and turnover of properties that he bought with SBA help than he did through his business, and he did great through his business. But I mean, to have an owner be able to create that in addition to the cash that's generated from their business, it's just great to see. And he put his hand on my shoulder, and the relationship manager, the person who helps him, and he said, "Thank you so much. You've made a giant difference in my life."
I'm going to steal that line. I never heard those stats before. Let's make sure I have it right. 11% of our small business owners, 25% of the wealth are in that 11%. That's
Correct.
a very impressive stat. Todd, you've seen a lot over your career from a 30,000-foot level. How's it gone? I don't mean you personally. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to know, how have you enjoyed watching the impact of SBA lending grow from the 90s to where we are 35 years later?
It's been absolutely awesome. I've gotten to do cool things, like I was the chairman of the Consumer Bankers Association Small Business Committee, so got to go to Congress a few times and do things like that. I did it recently too, and you know, I've seen us go through all kinds of cycles where, you know, you're at a cocktail party and you go, "Hey, I'm a banker." Everybody goes, "Cool, but at least you're not a lawyer." And then and then I've seen people, you know, at different times, like during the financial crisis, where you're telling me you're a banker, and they say, "Damn, I bet you wish you were a lawyer." Um, but so I've seen our reputation get, you know, torn down and built back up. But what I've seen too is the commitment from a government standpoint, from a societal standpoint, has
Yes.
always been there and always will be there for small business. So I think
In,
we need to guard that.
in terms of popularity, ranking military, but small business owners are right up there at the top in terms of the respect and honor they have in our society, because it hasn't always been that way, but people understand the importance of small business and the job creation and what it adds to your local Main Street and your local community. That is so important.
And we're unique in this is because, as a society, we've created an infrastructure where things can happen here that they can't happen anywhere else in the world. And small business ownership is the biggest part of that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So what does Todd Hollander do for his next act? Um, how do you, you looking for a job, or what are you you're gonna go right off into the sunset? Or I suspect there's a middle road. Tell me what the middle road is.
Yeah, I'm very, very lucky. I'm still, like I told you, still on my first wife, and my kids are all gone and paid for and independent. This has been a great career. I still love it. I still love small business. I still love everything. So I'd like to add value in some capacity. I'm open to being on, bank boards or other company paid boards, and fractional executive things, or if the right opportunity comes along. I've got a few things that I'm talking to see, if it turns out, see what's pie in the sky, see what's not, but it'd have to be pretty darn good where I could see, makes a lasting impact. And that's I feel like Lendistry, the couple of years that I spent and I'm spending there, I think that can be a long lasting positive influence on small business owners for a good long time. Same thing with the banks. And now, I think it's it's in higher hands than mine to see what happens. But I'd still enjoy contributing in some form or fashion.
Well, good for you. Grandpa yet?
Oh, you know what? I'm dying, but none of my boys. I have 3 boys. They're all adults, and none of them are even engaged. So no.
You and I have 3 boys and I have 3 granddaughters. So I don't know what the universe is telling me on that, but I will tell you from, a little bit removed, save your money when you go to the princess experience at Disneyland and dress up those little granddaughters in to be a princess and they get their hair done. That is not cheap. Well, very good, Todd. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate the passion and talking about your journey. I think that's awesome. You're in my backyard, so please stay in contact. I know you're not going to ride off into the sunset. There's a lot of opportunities there for working in this niche, especially in underserved markets. That's not going to go away. It's not going to go away. There's always going to be a need for it. And lenders, what I appreciate what you're saying is lenders can make money on that if they do that right.
Amen, Bob. And thank you for all you do for the industry. I love getting the Coleman report. It's the first thing I read, and you've really been great for this and around the whole time I've been around. So I look forward to a long-term relationship continuing with you, Bob.
Todd Hollander, board advisor.